From ancient wild hunters to the pampered pets of today, cats have walked beside humanity for thousands of years. Their story begins long before civilization, in the deserts of Africa, where the first wild cats learned to live near humans. As empires rose and fell, cats became symbols of mystery, guardians of grain, and companions of royalty, worshipped in Egypt, feared in the Middle Ages, and adored once again in the Victorian era. But their journey didn't stop there. Across the ocean, in the growing cities of America, new breeds emerged, carefully crafted by breeders who shaped the modern feline world we know today. This is the evolution, the culture, and the science behind one of humanity's oldest and most fascinating companions, the cat. Welcome to Cat Research Lab. 55 million years ago, deep in the ancient forests of North America, a small, agile creature named Miacis crept through the underbrush. It wasn't a cat, not yet, but it was the ancestor of all modern carnivores, dogs, bears, and yes, cats. As climate shifted and ecosystems diversified, Miacis gave rise to more specialized hunters. Among them emerged the Felidae family, true cats. These early felids were small, solitary, and adapted for ambush. They had retractable claws, keen night vision, and a preference for silence. Evolution had begun crafting the perfect predator. Felidae branched into two major groups. Pantherini, the big cats, lions, tigers, leopards, jaguars. Feline, the small cats, more agile, more elusive, and ultimately more adaptable. From feline came the genus Felis, a group of small wildcats that would one day curl up on human couches. In the savannas of North Africa, a sleek, solitary hunter emerged, Felis libica, the African wildcat. It stalked rodents near human settlements, drawn by grain stores and shelter. Humans noticed. They didn't tame it, it tamed itself. The quiet alliance began. In the Fertile Crescent, as agriculture flourished, so did the bond between humans and wildcats. Some Felis libica individuals were more tolerant, more social. They stayed close, hunted pests, and raised their kittens nearby. Over generations, these cats became genetically distinct. Thus, Felis catus was born, not through force, but through mutual benefit. Every time a cat curls up in a sunbeam or watches a bird with laser focus, it echoes millions of years of evolution. From forest shadows to living room sunbeams, the journey continues. In the Levant region, modern-day Israel, Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan, a culture known as the Natufians began storing grain, the first step toward farming. Where there's grain, there are rodents. And where there are rodents, cats soon follow. The Near Eastern wildcat, Felis sylvestris libica, started hanging around human settlements, hunting pests and protecting food supplies. Humans noticed and quietly welcomed them. This was the beginning of domestication. Archaeologists uncovered a human buried beside a cat in Shilarocambos, Cyprus. This grave, about 7,500 BCE, is the oldest known evidence of human-cat companionship. Because no wild cats lived on Cyprus naturally, the animal must have been brought there by humans. It's proof that people were already traveling with their cats. Carbon dating from a cat skeleton found in Cyprus suggests an early form of the Ankara cat, one of the oldest and purest long-haired breeds. Ancient art from Bodrum, Turkey, also shows depictions of elegant long-haired cats dating to the 1st century BCE. These early cats may represent the ancestors of modern Turkish Angoras. In Egypt, cats were not just helpers, they became sacred. They protected grain from rats and cobras from homes. Egyptians began to worship them, linking cats to the goddess Bastet. By 2000 BC, cats were fully domesticated and often mummified to honor their divine status. Phoenician, Greek, and Roman traders carried cats aboard ships as pest control. Cats reached Greece, Italy, and North Africa, becoming familiar companions in towns and temples. By the time of the Roman Empire, they were living freely throughout Europe. Around the same time, in China, people began taming the leopard cat, Prionelurus bengalensis. This was a separate attempt at domestication, one that eventually faded away. Modern cats carry no genetic trace of this line. Cat goddesses. Long before cats curled up on couches or chased lasers across living rooms, they were revered as divine, mysterious, and powerful beings. Across continents and centuries, cultures saw something sacred in their silent grace and piercing gaze. This is the story of cats, not as pets, but as gods. In the icy realms of Scandinavia, the goddess Freya, patron of love, fertility, and war, rode a chariot pulled not by horses, but by 2 mighty cats. These weren't ordinary felines. They were large, wild, and enchanted. Farmers left offerings to Freya's cats, hoping for bountiful harvests and protection. To harm a cat was to risk the goddess's wrath. In Norse myth, cats were not just companions, they were divine steeds of a powerful goddess. In the misty hills of ancient Ireland and Scotland, the cat sith prowled. A spectral black cat with a white spot on its chest, it was said to steal souls before burial rites were complete. But not all Celtic cats were feared. Some were guardians of sacred sites, protectors of druids, and symbols of mystery. The Celts believed cats could walk between worlds, between the living and the dead, the seen and unseen. In Japan, cats were seen as spiritual protectors. The manekiniko, the beckoning cat, became a symbol of luck and prosperity. But deeper in folklore, cats were shapeshifters, bakaniko and nikomata, creatures that could transform, speak, and even control the dead. Temples kept cats to guard sacred scrolls from rats, and some believed cats could ward off evil spirits. Their elegance was not just admired, it was feared and respected. In Hindu tradition, cats appear subtly but meaningfully. The goddess Shashti, protector of children and childbirth, is often depicted riding a cat. In rural folklore, cats were seen as sacred animals tied to fertility and domestic harmony. Though not worshipped as widely as cows or elephants, cats held a quiet place in the spiritual household, symbols of independence, mystery, and feminine energy. And then there was Egypt. Here, cats were not just sacred, they were gods. The fierce and elegant Bastet, goddess of home, fertility, and protection, had the head of a lioness or domestic cat. Egyptians mummified cats, built temples in their honor, and punished anyone who harmed them. Cats protected grain from rats and homes from cobras, earning their place as divine guardians. To love a cat in Egypt was to honor Bastet herself. Centuries later, in the heart of Islamic civilization, cats were cherished not as gods, but as beloved creations. The Prophet Muhammad was known to love cats deeply. One story tells of his cat Miacis, who once slept on his robe. Rather than disturb her, he cut the sleeve off. Cats were allowed in mosques, respected for their cleanliness and calm nature. In Islam, cats became symbols of mercy, dignity, and gentle companionship. Cat goddesses and the battle that changed everything. They may be domesticated now, but we can no longer call them wild. In ancient Egypt, there were 3 revered cat goddesses, Mafde, Bastet, and Sekhmet. Each represented a divine force, justice, fertility, and power. Together, they formed a sacred trinity, deeply woven into the soul of Egyptian belief. During the legendary Battle of Pelusium, the Persian king saw an opportunity. "You know," he said to his generals, "we'll use this against them." He ordered his soldiers to paint the images of Egypt's beloved cat goddesses onto their shields. The Egyptians, seeing their sacred protectors depicted on enemy armor, were torn. To strike those shields would mean dishonoring their goddesses. And so, many laid down their weapons. They scattered. Not out of fear, but out of reverence. That battle didn't end with bloodshed. It ended with a shift in course. A moment where faith overpowered war. A moment that showed just how deeply the Egyptians loved and feared their divine feline guardians. It may sound unbelievable, but it shows you exactly what E1 stood for: ethics, emotion, and Egypt. In 30 BCE, after the defeat of Cleopatra VII, Egypt became a Roman province. The temples of Bastet were looted, and Roman officials mocked feline worship as superstition. While cats remained useful for pest control, their divine status began to erode. Roman records show that by the 1st century CE, cat mummification had declined sharply. Temple attendance dropped. Bastet's cult, once central to Egyptian identity, was reduced to folklore. By the 1200s, cats, especially black ones, were no longer symbols of protection. They were feared. In Celtic mythology, Catsith, a spectral black fairy cat with a white chest spot, was said to steal souls and transform into human form 9 times. This may be the origin of the 9 Lives legend. But the real danger came from the Church. In 1233, Pope Gregory IX issued the papal bull Vox in Rama, the first official decree linking cats to witchcraft. It described Satan as a shadowy half-cat, half-human figure worshipped in heretical rituals. The bull called for the extermination of cats associated with witches. Between 1233 and 1350, cat populations in Europe plummeted. Some regions reported up to 80% decline in urban feline numbers. Cats were burned, drowned, and tortured alongside accused witches. Inquisitor Conrad von Marburg led mass trials in Germany, claiming cults worshipped a demonic black cat. His methods were so extreme that he was assassinated in 1233. Ironically, this purge may have worsened the Black Death. With fewer cats to control rats, flea-infested rodents spread the plague rapidly. By 1353, the pandemic had killed an estimated 25 million people, nearly 1/3 of Europe's population. In 1584, a book warned of witches who could transform into cats 9 times. Others claimed witches had a 3rd nipple to nurse their feline familiars. England's first documented witch trial involved a woman named Elizabeth Francis and her cat Saton, accused of causing death and destruction through dark magic. Across the Atlantic, cats sailed aboard the Mayflower in 1620. They helped pilgrims survive by protecting grain stores. But even in the New World, fear lingered. The Salem witch trials of the 1690s saw black cats burned alongside suspected witches. From divine guardians to devil's familiars, cats endured centuries of fear, fire, and folklore. Today, they sit beside us, purring softly. But their story is anything but tame. In the smoky parlors and polished drawing rooms of Victorian England, cats were not welcome. They were seen as scruffy little rat catchers, useful, yes, but hardly refined. To snuggle a cat was to embrace your pest control. Dogs had portraits. Horses had prestige. Cats had fleas. But in the 1860s, one man changed everything. His name was Harrison Weir. He was a gentleman naturalist, a lover of pigeons, poultry, rabbits, and eventually, cats. At first, he didn't care much for them. He admitted it. But something shifted. He began to see cats not as vermin hunters, but as elegant, intelligent companions. Possibly the most perfect, he called them. And then he did something no one had ever done before. He organized England's first cat show. It was a radical idea. Aristocrats and artists gathered to admire felines not for their utility, but for their beauty, their poise, their personality. Suddenly, cats weren't just tolerated, they were celebrated. Queen Victoria herself kept a Persian named White Heather. Florence Nightingale, the famed nurse, owned over 60 cats and claimed they had more empathy than most humans. Even Charles Darwin, who once grumbled about their nocturnal rambling, couldn't deny their evolutionary charm. Artists followed suit. Renoir painted girls with cats. Bonnard and Morisot placed felines beside women in soft, intimate scenes. The cat was no longer a shadow in the alley. It was a muse. By the end of the 19th century, cats had clawed their way into the heart of the home. They were no longer just mousers. They were companions, symbols of quiet dignity. And, thanks to Harrison Weir, they had a seat at the table. I've linked my video on the Victorian era and the rise of cats in the cards above. Feel free to check it out if you want a deeper dive into how felines went from street strays to salon stars. Now that we've opened the door to history, let's talk about their place in art. For centuries, cats have crept into the corners of canvases, sometimes as symbols, sometimes as silent companions. But in the hands of great artists, they became more than background. They became muses. So sit back and let the portraits speak. The music will guide you through a gallery where whiskers meet wonder. Whether curled in a lap or perched in a palace, cats have always held a place in the human imagination. And through the eyes of artists, they've become timeless. Cats have evolved into a stunning variety of natural breeds, each shaped by geography, climate, and time. We'll explore these natural types, accompanied by music that brings their stories to life. In the US and UK, breeders have long experimented with crossbreeding to blend wild beauty with domestic temperament. Through selective pairings, they aim to create cats with exotic looks, unique traits, and gentle personalities. These efforts combine science, aesthetics, and care, reshaping feline diversity one generation at a time. Some cat breeds are quietly fading from homes and history. Once cherished for their unique coats, temperaments, or origins, they now face extinction as breeding slows and interest wanes. Without care and recognition, even domestic cats can disappear, one rare lineage at a time. If you've ever wondered about the cat breeds quietly disappearing from the world, I've got a video that dives deep into their stories. Just check the card above. And if you're curious about all kinds of cats, from the rare to the beloved, I've left another video in the cards where you'll meet dozens of fascinating breeds. Each one has a tale worth hearing. On today's internet, fame wears whiskers. A cross-eyed rescue cat becomes a meme overnight. A grumpy-faced tabby lands a book deal. A fluffy white kitten with a dramatic meow racks up millions of views just by blinking. These cats don't chase mice. They chase algorithms, charming the world with every stretch, sneeze, and sideways glance. Behind each viral clip is a human who hit record at just the right moment and a cat who couldn't care less. All right, friends, that wraps up our journey through the world of cats. But before we go, let's talk health, because those sweet little companions of ours often face chronic illnesses, and vet bills can be steep. So if you're thinking about adopting, do it with full awareness and love. I've linked a video in the cards that breaks down veterinary costs in detail. Also, here's something many don't realize. Certain bacteria can make cats sick, and some of those illnesses can spread to humans too. Yup, zoonotic diseases are real. I've got another video in the cards that covers that, so be sure to check it out. Please take care of your health and theirs. These little fluff balls depend on us. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. And if you're into this kind of content, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and give your cat an extra cuddle for me.